Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Nico Sartori, and it is officially severe weather season. So, as you may know, the Storm Prediction Center, which is the center that essentially predicts and analyzes severe weather and gives out these outlooks for potential severe weather events. So, they did release a new set of graphics that's going to enhance severe weather forecasting, and today we're going to break that down for you. So originally, they still had five categories. These are still going to be staying around. All right, so when we think of severe weather, we do have a threshold for that. So 58 miles per hour wind gusts or greater, quarter of inch sized hail, or a tornado. All right, so when you're under the light green thunderstorm label, these are sub-severe thunderstorms, but they still can pack a punch with 40 mile per hour wind gust or like pea-sized hail. And then we have a marginal, right? Marginal essentially means you have isolated risk of severe thunderstorms. It's not very widespread. Most people won't see any severe weather. It's mostly 0 to 20% in coverage, right? These are based on coverage and probabilities, right? When we go to a slight risk, level 2 of 5, right, that's when we see scattered severe weather, anywhere from like 20 to 60% of the coverage area, right? This, they tend to be brief when you have an isolated slight, but could be short-lived or not widespread. Enhanced is when you see numerous severe storms, right? They're more persistent, few intense, more long-lived. Right, numerous essentially meaning you have like 60 to percent of the area covered on severe storms. Moderate and high risk, that's when we get on the high end scenario, where you have widespread severe storms where moderate risk it's likely, high risk it's expected. So essentially, and that's when you have long-lived severe thunderstorms and possible violent tornadoes and large hail and damaging winds. Previously, any non-significant severe weather would be like a 5% or a 2% risk, right? And they would not introduce a hatched region until there's a 10% probability, whether that be tornadoes, wind, or hail. Previously, a hatched meaning there was significant severe weather within a 25-mile radius of where you're located. Here you can see the old way. Here we have a 2% chance. This is showing tornado probabilities. So an isolated tornado or two is possible and a 2% chance risk here. Then in the brown, we have the 5% probability, right? And notice once we get to 10%, you see these dashed lines, right? That's when we see the possibility of significant severe weather of EF2 tornadoes or higher. All right, then greater probability here with that 15% red or hatched risk there. So before I go into the new releases and updates, first I want to talk about conditional probability because this is very helpful in understanding the new parts of the graphic outlooks that came out. So essentially, it's about conditional probabilities, right? So what is conditional probability? It's basically the probability of event A given that B has already occurred, right? So think of an if-then statement. If a storm were to initiate, then it is probable that an EF2 or greater tornado is possible, given the environmental characteristics or the setup that's going to occur. All right, so given the probability of event A, that B has already occurred, right? So think of B as a storm firing up, whereas event A is the probability of intensity of that tornado, hail, or damaging wind threat. Now, with that in mind, the SPC has introduced new conditional intensities in their SPC outlooks. A few key changes here, right? We no longer need a 10% or greater probability area to highlight significant severe weather potential, right? So in the 2% chance risk or the 5% chance risk, you can see those hatched areas as well. And that is very prominent, especially with the tornado that occurred in Union City, Michigan last night or a couple days ago by the time you see this video. um, where we had a violent tornado move through the region with a risk of a 2% probability, right? So this is why it's important to highlight some of these characteristics. All right, so the methodology intensity forecasts are now based on storm environment and storm mode, right? Of course, you have your line of storms, right? These are your linear convective systems that poses like damaging wind threats, embedded tornadoes, weak tornadoes, and large hail. Whereas your supercells, your rotating thunderstorms, they have greater risk for larger hail, violent long track tornadoes, and damaging wind gusts, depending on the storm environments there. So that's what they mean by storm mode and storm environments, right? The four ingredients you need slim, right? So you have shear, you have shear is your change in wind speed and direction with height. You have your lift, right? That's whether like a frontal system moving through, or upper level forcing support. And then you also have instability, the amount of energy in the atmosphere. The stronger the updraft, the more intense the thunderstorm will become. And then moisture, of course. You need moisture for the storms to fire up. So the definition here, these intensities are conditional, meaning if a tornado occurs, what is the probability it will be an EF2, EF3, or EF4 or greater on a map, right? This is what these SIG levels would look like. So SIG level 1, we have the old dashes. Don't mind my drawing. I'm drawing on a computer. I'm also a terrible drawer, by the way. SIG 2, all right, let me draw this in here. Right, that's when we have diagonal lines. So it'll look like that. And then lastly, SIG 3 is when we have the cross. So here you draw in some diagonal lines here, and then you have other diagonal lines to make a cross. That's SIG level 3. Right, so here it's more of a breakdown. SIG less than level 1 intensity, right? Mostly EF0, EF1 tornadoes, less than 74 mile per hour wind gusts, hail intensity of less than 2 inches in diameter. Intensity level 2, max EF2, peak wind gusts of 74 miles per hour or greater. You could see hail up to 2 inches or greater. Right, those are hen-sized egg-sized hail. Intensity level 2, EF3 max. Now this is where you could see like a bow echo or derecho, which a derecho is essentially the stronger end of a line of storms, right? When you have those storms bow out on radar, right? That's indicative of a very mature line of storms. Um, it's essentially a family of downburst clusters that bring strong damaging wind gusts from aloft to the surface and can extend for hundreds of miles along a large damage path. As far as hail intensity, right, that's when we have 3.5 inches of hail or greater, right? You can get golf ball or baseball sized hail in this level. And then the last one, we have max EF4. That could be a historic outbreak or a high end ongoing derecho event. So level 3 is not really what we want to see at all this storm season. Now, what does this mean? So essentially, it's a conditional probability. So instead of just forecasting on coverage and probability, now they also forecast on intensity. All right, let me change the color to white here. So low end severe events, let's say you have a low end severe event, but it's widespread, right? So this is where you can basically communicate to the public on whether you have low impact, high coverage events, or whether you have isolated but very violent events, right? And communicating these impacts is a huge difference. And I believe this adds detail to the already SPC outlooks already initiated. So this is what it looks like on a conversion chart from each category, right? So here you have the different intensity levels here at the bottom, and then here you have the probability levels, right? Anywhere from 2, 5, 10, 15, 30, 45, and 60. Right here we have tornado, wind, hail, and total severe. But remember, days 1 through 2, they only highlight the intensities of certain hazards separately, whereas day 3, they put it all together, right? As day 3, it's typically some uncertainty that far out in forecast. Um, but essentially, you have sig2 right here. Let's say you have a 10% probability, right? Then you can expect an enhanced risk for severe weather as far as tornadoes go. Let's say you have sig2 here. Remember, hail is not part of sig3. That's going to be saved for more severe events. Sig2, and then let's say we have 60% chance of hail, large hail, right? So then you have a moderate risk for severe weather. So this is what they look at when they issue categorical outlooks. Now notice previously we only had up to 60% probability of damaging winds. Now they added 75 and 90% probabilities as well. So that's another notable change. Now let's look at a classic severe weather event. Many of you probably already know the April 27, 2011 severe weather events where we had very high risk possible for severe weather. And as you know, as that outbreak unfolded, violent tornadoes unfolded, several of them, which cost the lives of many. Well, here's the before, right? This is actually before SPC integrated the enhanced risk. Now here's the after. Right here we have the intensity level 3 here, right? SIG, right? So this is, I believe, tornado risk here, right? So it's indicating EF4 or greater tornadoes possible with a 45% chance probability. So yeah, that was a very high-end event. And then here we have SIG level 2 right here, right? EF3 or greater in the red, right? That's a 30% chance. And then here we have the dash in yellow, 15% chance of EF2 tornadoes or greater. And you can even get those now and your 5% probability risk. So that is an actual example of comparing it to the 2011 events. And now you know what the SPC outlooks mean. And when you look at them in the forecast, you can understand what they're trying to communicate and interpret. And if you want more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, as I will continue providing more educational content in the coming days. Right? I'm meteorologist Nico Sartori, and have a great day, everyone.